Hunter, you're in the background. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hello everyone. This is Sachiv again from Boxbrain. Today, as डिस्कस के हम लोगों ने आज जो है मिस एंजेला के पेंटन के साथ जो है हम लोगों ने सेशन करना है. सो वी विल बी लाइव हियर इन दिस सेशन. सो वेलकम मैम. Yes, Avan,
Hi.
please. Yes, hello, Avan, please continue.
Yes, so it is again a very informal kind of a session,
Yeah.
but it will be very much informative. And
Yeah.
right from the technologist and artist,
Yeah.
Miss Angela Fenton, and
Yes.
it's so generous of her that she accepted our invitation and
Yes.
gave us her precious time. So let's start with it. First of all, I would like to share some condition, Karachi condition, Pakistan's condition right now. Due to lockdown and other things, it's like the industries were closed from last 1 month, and now they have
Yes.
started back. They are coming back to the normal. But again, supply chain is disturbed, and other things are also disturbed. So overall, all those industries who were not doing well in lean and management of waste, they are
Yes.
not doing well. Their targets cannot be achieved in these kind of situations. So with this COVID-19 situation, first, if you like to update about Canada, what's the industrial situation there right now?
Okay, yeah. Well, we got hit with it around the middle of March,
Yes.
and I find that we didn't necessarily. Our prime minister was pretty good about providing immediate support for businesses and people. So we had because a lot of people got laid off from their jobs because we had to send people home. And of course, our construction industry kept going, but we have a lot of imports coming from all over the world, and so that there's a lot of stuff from China that we're not getting, and
Yes.
probably clothes and things from like all over the world, and a lot of so our government was very good about getting people money right away so that they could pay their rent and everything like that. And we've had an ongoing updates about businesses getting loans. So they're not necessarily getting funding, but they're getting loans so that they can keep their people on staff while they're at home. So that's super helpful.
Yeah.
But as far as industries, I think it's any of the industries that are involved with construction are doing fine. They might even have a boost, but for now,
Okay.
it's we're opening back up though. Next
Okay.
Friday, it's kind of by province, but next Friday, Halifax, where I live, we're gonna open up next Friday.
Okay, so you are in Ontario, Toronto, or
I'm in Nova Scotia, so it's on the far
Okay.
east side of the country in
Yes.
Halifax. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ontario, where Toronto is, got hit really bad with the virus. So they had, nothing like Europe or the States, but for us, I guess we have a pretty low population for the size of Canada.
Yes.
But
For the size.
Toronto obviously is a huge city, so
Yes.
but where I live, I think we've had like under 100 deaths.
Okay. That's
Yeah, and we've had about, a couple thousand cases. So we've been very fortunate. Yeah.
yeah. So it's actually the case that as much as the city is metropolitan, that the transportation is there, it was hit most by the COVID-19. So same the case with Karachi. Karachi and Lahore of Pakistan, they are actually the cities in which most of the transportation is done from outside and inside also. So
Okay.
that's why it got hit mostly. The rural areas are kind of safe from this COVID-19, which is great.
Yeah.
Well, on a lighter note, Justin Trudeau is very much popular in Pakistan.
Oh,
Also.
really?
Yeah,
cool.
in
Very
yeah,
famous in
because of
Pakistan.
yeah, because of his diversity, the way
Yes.
he always looks after all the communities, and
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
also I think his immigration her policies are very much liked in Asia, in India, and
Yes.
Pakistan subcontinent. So
Yes.
Yes.
these are
Yeah.
the reasons. Yes.
Yes.
Like
The-
when Syria is still going through a lot of trouble, and I think we accepted, even in Nova Scotia, we accepted like 10,000 people or 5,000 people in our community. So we
Yeah.
have, that's one thing I love about Canada is you go
Yes.
anywhere in Canada and you find so like the diversity is the country. It's not just like this
Yes.
thing that we do, it actually is what we
Yes.
are. Yeah.
And I think it is the Canada is the community, the most diverse community with
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
like
Exactly.
lack of racism. I mean, there is very much low racism in
Yes.
Canada as
It's,
compared to
yeah.
other communities.
Compared to another country, which I won't mention, which is
Yeah,
to the south of us.
you know it. The current
Yeah.
situation,
They're having a lot of trouble right now. Like a lot of, I don't know if you've been following the news with the
Yeah, I'm
US right
following
now.
it. Yeah.
So people in Canada are really supportive of the minority communities down there. And yeah, no, I feel, especially during this, like our government is not perfect. We're doing, how can you how can you react perfectly in a situation like this, right? But
Yes.
I feel really fortunate to be a Canadian at this point because I didn't have to worry about running out of food. I didn't have to worry about, because I just started my business this year. And so it doesn't feel like a disaster to me. It feels like, okay, it's just this hard thing that we're all getting through.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you guys
But-
feel that way in your country? Where are you from, Afan?
Yes.
You're both from the same space?
Yes. Same
Yeah,
space.
from
Yes.
the same
Exactly. We are
space,
from
Karachi,
Karachi, Pakistan.
Cool.
Yes.
Do you guys
Yeah.
feel protected by your government? Is your government do you feel like things are going as well as they can?
Yes.
Well,
Exactly.
if we look at the developed countries, obviously the contrast is different here because
Yeah.
it's an underdeveloping country and all that. But overall, now things are getting better here, and with all the restrictions have been uplifted from USA travel also. So now, other than this COVID-19, before COVID-19, there were restrictions in the last decade on Pakistan travel
Okay.
restrictions and others, but now they have been lifted. The security condition, the safety condition is very much better. It's like 80% better, and
Oh,
overall the
great.
situation is going good. The country is opening for foreigners, which is great actually.
Yes.
But then
But
we
the
got hit by this COVID, so
nine.
now again it's all closed.
Yes. Exactly. Around there are 65,000 cases in Pakistan of
Oh,
COVID-19.
wow. Okay.
65,000. Yes.
So
And
that's about the same as Canada. I think we've got around
yes.
60.
65. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So it's
Uh,
manageable. Now in Pakistan, one of the issues we have in Canada, you might have seen, is we have a lot of, like, I guess we call them old age homes, or we have nursing homes where older people are going to live. Now in Pakistan, do a lot of elderly people live with their family, or do they
With the
live?
family.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's probably a big difference because here a lot of it got hit really hard in the nursing homes because we
Yeah.
don't have as much of a culture here of living with our parents. So I think it's better for people that live with their parents. It's
Yeah.
better for the parents. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, giving the circumstances in which the Pakistan is right now, the difference between Canada, if the numbers are same, but the difference is actually the medical facilities. So Canada has one of the best medical facilities in the world, which we lack with our population density. It's like we have 22 crore population, which is 220 million. Whereas Canada, I think it's it's 330 million.
Yeah, for the whole
Yeah.
country. Yeah.
Yeah, for the whole country. So
Yeah.
this is the difference with less medical facilities and more population. So that's where we actually lack. Pakistan.
Yeah. No, we're doing pretty well. I'm lucky. I haven't had to go to the
That's great.
hospital. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
But your families are safe? Your families are all well?
Yeah, in my vicinity, in my family, everyone is safe. I haven't seen any case till now, and I hope it's remained the same.
Yeah.
And what about you, Saad? What's on your side? Any case in family? I think Saad is disconnected or something. Have you seen any case, ma'am? In
No,
your
I
family?
haven't seen actually. I don't know anybody. There's
Okay.
a place that's about 5 miles from here that is like one of the nursing homes I was talking about. And that
Yeah.
was really hit badly, but I don't personally know anybody that has gotten. But they say too that there
Okay.
you can get it and you don't know. So who knows? Maybe I had it. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like an invisible evil or something that we
Yeah.
don't know about it. So great. So if we like put all those things on in an industrial point of view, that same with diversity, employee empowerment, the liberty people have in Canada. I think the industrial people, industrial employees of industries enjoy the same liberty, the same employee empowerment there.
I think they do. I guess that a lot of the inequalities from between people that are like the management class compared to the people
Yeah.
that do the work, this has brought up a lot of those inequalities that are there. So for instance, there's all the people that work at minimum wage jobs, like work in the gas station or the grocery store. Those people aren't able to work from home, right? So it shows that a lot of businesses, the managers are able to go home and keep collecting their salary and work and stay
Yep.
safe, whereas the people that are working on the roads or working in the gas station, they're having to go in and expose themselves to the dangers. So I think that's really been brought to the forefront, where people sometimes, if there's unfair labor laws, but we have pretty fair conditions for workers. I mean, their safety has been, they came in really quickly, even in factories where people kept working, or construction conditions. Like my partner paints for a living. So
Okay.
they weren't allowed to have more than 5 people in a house at a time, or if it was a new commercial site, they weren't allowed to have more than 5 people. So just yesterday, they made it so that you could have 10 people working.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's pretty good. The businesses that are suffering the most here in Halifax anyway are the restaurants. And there's going to be a lot of restaurants that are going to close because
True.
they're not allowed to fill to capacity.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and I imagine too, industries where you have, where say you have an assembly lines and stuff like that, where you have a whole bunch of people working together. Now, how do you readjust your whole entire process when you're only allowed to have half the people working at one time? So
Yes.
I think people are just scrambling right now to figure out how do they go back to normal and
Yep.
make enough money to actually stay open.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same in Pakistan that restaurants are not allowed to go for dining. Only takeaway is
Yeah.
allowed, right? Yeah. So
I
dine-in
think
is
it's
not
an
allowed.
also yes. It's I think it's a new normal, you can say.
Yeah. So but with a restaurant, I think restaurants work at like a 4% profit margin, like something tiny profit margin.
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
was when they could fill the house like at least
Yeah.
3 or 4 nights a week. So if you're told, okay, you can only have like 5 tables in your restaurant at once,
Yeah.
there's just no process for that. So I'm actually hoping that Like I used to be a chef. I used to work in restaurants when I was younger.
Wow.
And so I'm hoping that I'm actually thinking about maybe approaching some restaurants that want to open, but they need to figure out some logistics of how they can make a good service, because it's still about serving the customer. Business is about how do you get the customer what they want. And I know customers are going to be understanding that everything's going to be chaotic, but customers are only going to put up with that so long. They're going to go with the company that got their stuff together quickly.
Yes.
So
True.
yeah, even a loyal customer, or say with suppliers and stuff too, time is money, right? So if you have a supplier, even if they're struggling to get everything that you need, you'll put up with it maybe for 1 or 2 shipments, and then you're just going to go find somebody else. So it's like emergency. And the government's not really giving that much warning. They're just like last week, they said, okay, restaurants are all open next week. And so we're like, I'm sure they've been working behind the scenes with different trades organizations. Like they've been working with hotels to say, okay, they had to submit plans for how they're going to reopen safely.
Yes.
But Canada has a lot of regulation. We're all about rules and regulation and like so much red tape. So what is it like in Pakistan with red tape and regulations? Are you guys a little bit looser or?
Yes, there's a yes.
If you talk about the rules and regulations on paper, it may be more than Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
But if we go to the implementation side, that's where we lack very much.
Same as the industry. There's a lot of SOPs in industry, but people can follow somehow.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of times, do you guys use ISO 9000 over there? ISO, yeah. Yes. So it's probably the same. Our industry is pretty much the same, right? But I find sometimes with SOPs, it's like those are documents that are kept. So for when the ISO auditor shows up, and you say, yes, we've got document control. So like, I'm a really big fan of doing like work instructions rather than SOP. So an SOP is good for the record, but the work instruction to me is like, it's visual, it's meant and designed for the workers, the people that do the process. And it's like a live document. Like as soon as something changes, it should be easy to change. You go into some places and you ask, well, what is your process for this? Like if the supervisor had to describe step by step what the process is, they actually they just look at the SOP. Oh, well, here's our process. Yes. But when you actually go to the people that are doing the work, and you go to the line and you watch them, they've got like this jerry-rigged because this machine doesn't work right. So they've got, they've rearranged everything themselves to try to meet the demand every day. And they've actually maybe developed some best practices that work much better than the original process, but nobody has documented it. So when they come in to train a new person, the supervisor will like give the new person the SOP and directions and say, okay, now go do this. But then when they get back to the line, the people that are working are like, don't listen to that. And so it creates this like mistrust it creates further mistrust between people that do the work and the managers and the owners. Whereas like, what I like to do is the first thing I like to do when I work with processes with people is to go right to the people that are doing the work and ask them, what are you guys doing? And document all that and then compare that to the official record, and sometimes those official processes that are in the SOP are actually there for a reason. Like there's some kind of regulation or there's some kind of agreement that they have with customers where they have to have it a certain way. But if they're not communicating those reasons why to their staff and they're just assuming that they're following the process, like workers could be actually going against the rules without even knowing it, or doing something unsafe without even knowing it. So that's like, for me, the most important thing that I learned from going to school, that translated from going to school compared to the real life, is going to the Gemba, like going to the actual workplace all the time. Like, they shouldn't be surprised to see their supervisor or the owner show up. It should just be like a normal thing, right? Like getting away from the office and the computer and actually going in. But that takes time, right? So people don't do it, I guess. It takes time.
It takes time and also effort. So you have to go to lines and you have to kind of interview all the operators that are implementing those work instructions. And as you have said about work instruction, in Pakistan, we also have a practice in good companies that we said that we always instruct them to go for local language work instructions. So like in Urdu, we have work instruction in Urdu so that all the operators, the low line workers can all understand. Whereas SOP has to be in English and for auditors and other things, but at least work instruction should be in local language. So this is another challenge that we face here. Yeah.
And local language, and that's why symbols and images are so great to use. So like in some work instructions that I've made, like the words might be like this much, but the pictures are what shows everything. Like sometimes you can even have like a right and a wrong. So you have like a picture of how to do it right with like a big green check mark, and then a picture of like, don't do this. Or say for quality checks, like instead of just saying, okay, check this, check this, check this, actually show a picture of examples of what it looks like when this is wrong, and post it somewhere where everyone can see it and everyone can see that language. And so say if it's missed early on in the, you can even have pictures of errors that might come from like the previous step. So these are some of the things you might see when it comes from the group that's before you. This is what it looks like. And then it gives them the opportunity to, people need to feel safe too, to bring up these errors or to bring up defects without getting in trouble. Like without saying, you messed up and like you guys cost us a bunch of work. Actually being free to say there's something wrong, because a lot of times it's something wrong with the process. It's not just laziness. Like a good process will help people to do the right thing the first time, in my opinion. Like if it's a good process, it's easy to do it the right way.
Yes, do it right first time.
Yeah. But that's not, getting to that point comes with the trial and error of making the same mistake over and over again, and finally just getting sick of seeing that mistake.
Yes. True.
Yeah.
As you have mentioned, and you have mentioned correctly, this is where Pakistani industries are stuck right now. That they know about lean manufacturing, they know about process improvement processes, they have the resources, the engineers are working there. But the intentions is again to pass the audit and to just fill the documents, not to get the actual improvement out of the process. The targets are not met, but yes, the ISO 9001 certification is there and it got passed, the audit got passed, but the targets are not targets are not made and also not achieved. So this is where Pakistani industries stuck right now, that they are not taking it in actual soul, they are just keeping it for the documents. So correctly.
You know what? I think that is common everywhere. I really think that people want to have something behind their name. Like, okay, this is our culture. We have a lean, we do lean, or they'll have a lean project or something like that. But it's really a way of thinking. Now, one of the problems is that if a company, I think, if a company is designed right from the very beginning with lean principles and lean, like the, balancing people with profits and like thinking about the customer, all that kind of stuff, then it's easier to implement these things because you can go in and it's like it's just in people's minds. Like people know how to see waste right away, right? But if you go into somewhere, if you have a company that was designed with a very, like an older traditional model, you can't just turn that whole ship around towards that way of thinking. Like, so say if you've got a push system where you're just like getting massive amounts of stock and massive amounts of raw materials, and then just making a whole bunch of stuff and trying to sell it as fast as you can't just all of a sudden put lean principles in, because the lean requires like a whole different way of thinking of like only using just what you need. So like my approach is now, like in the way I would like to do it a little differently, rather than go in somewhere and try to transform the whole culture to the lean. And I'm not going to go in and say, I'm not going to use lean words or Six Sigma words or try to say, okay, well, this is by the book how you're supposed to do it. I want to just take the tools that work and make them accessible as possible, just in a very practical way. So if they have one problem, instead of trying to align their whole entire culture and system to lean, because that's just too big for that. Maybe I'm just not experienced enough to do that. If they don't already have that culture, my goal is to go help the people that do the work recognize waste and to try to help them to speak the language and to collect the evidence that they can present to the senior team in a way. So, because a lot of times the message that comes from the floor is just complaining. They're just like, this sucks, this doesn't work, we don't like them. And there's like this big divide. Whereas if they learn how to collect evidence, so say if they learn how to do something really simple, like capture cycle time data, and they start actually timing something, and then they learn how to make a change and then do it and then time it with the change. Then they can present a very simple piece of data to their manager and say, look, we need $1,000 to fix this machine or to get this part, and this will save you, $100 or $500 or $1,000 a day or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm being idealistic a little bit, but I feel like I want to make lean as accessible and practical as possible. So make it just about problem solving. Like you don't have to use all of the proper terminology. Like today I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And I was thinking a lot about how different it was, like from what I learned in school, like the theoretical Lean Six Sigma and project management. We're like, there's no problems. Everything is just, there's a proper way to do things, and you are presented with a problem and you're able to apply all these tools. Whereas in real life, in real business, as you guys know, it moves way too fast. And they don't care. Like the owner or the supervisors or your manager, like they're not going to really care that how smart and clever you are because you know all of this Six Sigma and you can provide all the right tools. They just want you to solve the problem quickly. So like, you know how over-processing is one of the big wastes. So I think over-processing can occur from somebody that's new to lean. It did for me. Like when I first started out actually applying this in the workplace, I tried to, I was doing over-processing. So what my boss wanted was like, get me a few samples, get a little bit of evidence so she can prove to her boss and make it quick and just show me something. But what I was doing is like, I need at least 30 samples and I need to have this type of analysis. And I would make like a whole technical document like I learned in school to show them and prove to them that this is a problem. And basically what my boss told me was like, this is really great, but we don't need this here. We don't need to, so you have to make compromises and just do, look at each situation differently. Now, some companies, they're at that level, they're at that high level where they can use Six Sigma and actually start really fine-tuning all of their stuff down to the minute or the hour. Whereas some people that go to school are going to end up in jobs where they just need someone with a problem-solving mind. And with Lean, it just gives you another set of tools. Like, you don't have to stick to the book. It just gives you another little guidance. For me, it gives me just the guidance to take something really complex and just break it down.
True. You just hit the right point. And the problem in Pakistan are the same. Number one is that how to kind of group the employees and managers on the same page, like the staff and the manager. Manager is talking about lean manufacturing, lean management systems, the removal of waste, whereas staff has no concerns of it, and they don't understand its importance. And the higher management only understands everything in cost. So and the staff and the managers, they both cannot convert everything into cost because they don't know cost engineering. They don't know how to convert everything into cost. So this is where the communication gap is, that there are 3 layers and the staff is not interested in anything except doing his work as he do every day. So how do you say, how can we, what tools can be used to motivate employees in such a situation?
Well, I think that for me, like, a lot of what my work was being that liaison, especially as a technologist, because I'm not like a full engineer, I'm a technologist. So my job is to actually go out into the field and get information, which I actually like. Like, I like not just thinking in theory, I like actually going in the field and seeing. So the first thing is always, in someone in my role, is to always get the trust of the people out on the floor. Don't talk about lean. Don't talk about how you want them to improve. Like, ask them about their jobs. Treat them like experts. So first thing, you're treating them, you're giving them the respect of, like, they know the process better than me. It doesn't matter that I'm a process expert. They actually know the problems that are already there. But then it's about, so say if the senior management have a project that they're asking me to implement, like, we need to get improved productivity by a certain percentage on this. We need to make more money here. What I do is I try to understand the senior management's motivation and long-term vision, like why they're doing this. I really try to understand it. Then I go to the people on the floor as I'm working. I say, look, I need evidence from you guys of how things really are. So I don't want to know, because there's a project that's going to happen whether you guys like it or not. So I tell them, like, this is happening. You guys have an opportunity to have input. So will you guys work with me to give me the information so that the people that are making the decisions can make a better decision? Because if you don't tell them, if we don't get this information, then they're going to make decisions that don't make sense for you guys. So my thing is always to try to create systems that serve people. So you're not just creating a system that people have to constantly keep up with. That's like the old way, like Henry Ford and, all that stuff.
Yes.
For me, it's like, you want to if you create a system that works for the people that are closest to the customer. So like the people that are in the warehouse, the salespeople, the people on the assembly line. Oh, I think I'm echoing a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So
yes.
If you create a system that allows those people to serve the customers really easily, then the company is going to make more money. So
yes.
and it also earns recognition for the people that are doing the work. So like I'm always like a champion of the people that are doing the work and trying to represent them at the senior management table. But sometimes there's a people that are doing the work, like they're experts, but they don't want to change. They don't want to talk to you. They don't really care about their job, and they don't really care about the company. They just want to make money, and that's okay. Like I understand that, but you have to sift through some of all the complaining and find the actual truth and evidence of what they're saying. So when they're complaining, I say, well, show me the picture, show me what's wrong, so that, because when I go to the senior level, people that make the decisions, they don't care about the complaining. What they care about is like, well, if you have data and evidence, that's like the best tool to me. So it's earning trust of both people, so that the senior people can trust you, that you understand you're going to carry out what they need. But then you earn the trust of the people that do the really hard work.
Yes.
Well, the hard physical work anyway, and earn their trust, so that they know that you are advocating for them as well.
Sure.
So that's how I do it, and it seems to work, but it takes time to build trust with people.
Yes, and the famous, the popular statement that comes from experienced workers usually is that, and I've experienced it myself, that whatever your age is, my experience is more than that. So if your age is 25, 20, 30 right now, my experience is 40 years. So what you are talking about, that we should have to change. So there are still people in workers' side also.
Yes, exactly. This is also a problem of young engineers. It's coming when they're going into the field. The experienced workers said that we have a lot of experience and all that, because they know about how to deal and the latest tools and all that. But they said, no, we know better than you, like all that statements.
Oh yeah, and in a way though, they do. They know them. They know all the nitty gritty stuff. So I ask a lot of questions. I don't tell anything. I go in and I say, I don't understand this. Can you show me? Can you ask me again? Like, why do you think this is, right? And just because as an engineer, I mean, your job is you're more of in a analysis role or thinking, or you might have influence. You might actually be a decision maker. But I can't, like, I went to my last job, I went and worked it was an industrial service. They did like securing, lifting, and rigging. So they fixed cranes and they made all the wire rope for the cranes and the big machines and like carrying the cargo ships and stuff like that. I didn't know anything. I went to that job. I don't know anything. I know a little bit about metal because I used to be a metalsmith, and I know machines. I worked in, I understand what it's like to work around machines, but I didn't know anything about lifting capacity and all this stuff that these guys know. Some of them they can barely do math, but they know by instinct, like whether something is good quality or not good quality. Like they know how long something will take without being told, So it's really, that thing, like go and see, ask why, and show respect. Like that was a motto kind of for me when I came out of school, that I was really committed to showing that respect, because I know what it's like to work. I was a landscaper. I mean, I dug holes for years. Like, I worked in a kitchen where it's like hot and sweaty and you're cutting yourself. And I also too, like being a woman in industry, I go into some very male dominated environments where they kind of look at me like, oh yeah, here's a girl coming along with earrings on, and like, what does she know about our industry? And so I have to even spend a little bit more time to let them know that I trust them. So sometimes it's about like any little favors you can do for people. Like one time I was working at a place where the people that were doing the work, I was there to create all the visual work instructions for these people. So this one girl, this one section, they were building like fiberglass airplane wings, and they didn't have enough lighting. They had complained about to their supervisor, like, we don't have enough lighting because it was like an angle, like a U, and so the light was shining in and they couldn't see down inside the U. So they had complained and they had put a request in and nothing happened. So like I just went to the hardware store and like bought them a light. You know what I mean? Like, just buy them a light, and she was able to shine the light in, and it was like a flashlight on a stick, right? But it was a little thing like that took me, it would cost me like $20. It fixed them, and even if it wasn't perfect, it made them feel like this person cares about, they care about us. And it also showed respect because I recognized that they want to do a good job. Like, they wanted to do the highest quality job. And so things like that, helping people if they have, I became kind of the person that people would call when they were stuck on something. Like, I'm trying to get through to the inventory team and like they're not answering my emails, and I need this certain type of shackle and they haven't got back to me. Well, I was in a position where I worked on the same floor. I worked at head office. I could walk right down to the inventory desk and talk to the person and say, look, like, this person way out on the other side of the country just needs to get this shackle by next week. Like, what can we do? How can I help to make this happen? And it's those little details. Like, it takes time and it's not really part of my job. And maybe the owner would think it was a waste of time, but it actually helps serve a customer. And then that person trusted me so that when I needed them to do something for me, like, I need you to collect times, or I need you to take a video of this process. Can you help me do that? They would just be like, sure, Angela, no problem. Yeah.
So it worked both ways. Exactly.
It works both ways. Yeah.
Yes. And again, breaking the silos. We work in silos. We don't kind of gel in with the other team. And also the behavioral issues. Like, if the person is an expert, but his work ethics or work behavior is not good, and emotional intelligence is not there. So then the success for a team, it would be difficult for a team to be successful in that scenario.
Yeah, and it is that we have that silo thing here. It's part of I think it's just part of the traditional business model that is kind of going away. Like, I think more businesses are recognizing that, and I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but here, I mean, people just jump from job to jobs. Like, you can probably, if you really don't like your job, you can just go somewhere where they treat you better. Sometimes, I mean, right now you can't because there's no jobs really, but so I think that the silos too, what happened, like the thing that I experienced with the silos was that big projects would come down the line and they would be directed at like one department. Okay, so the IT department is building this app that's going to do this and this and this and this. And because the silos are there, the IT department doesn't go to purchasing, or they don't go to the operations and say, how is this going to work for you? Like, they don't go to their end customer because they think of their end customer as their supervisor and the customers. They're not thinking of, so it's that thing of like aligning the systems all together. That's another thing that if an engineer or an industrial engineer can get really good at finding out the impact of projects that's going to happen and if they can run around and find all the information, then they can start collecting the risk points and potentially saving the company a whole bunch of time in having to do rework.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's been a really good part of my job too, especially learning to work with the IT department. I love IT people. And one thing that I found I actually worked a lot with the IT people. We rolled out a national piece of software. It just kind of fell in my lap, this project.
Okay.
And what was happening because of that big divide between operations and the IT department, they needed somebody in operations to collect exactly how this app was going to work. It basically had to be designed by operations for it to work. It couldn't just be designed because the operation or the IT had no idea. It was a service. It was like a service app for inspections. So the operations people had to do, but the operations didn't know how to speak IT language. They just said, like, we want it to be like this. Whereas the IT team, the development team, they needed to be like, make a button that when you press this, it does this. And then like they needed it laid down so that they can action on it really, really quickly. So that was a really cool part of my job, was to actually be that liaison again, where I took all of the language from one group and translated it into the language of another group. Now, I don't know if that's a traditional thing that engineers are supposed to do, but I found as a technologist, or as with the skills that I had in Lean, that helped me to be able to understand that back and forth communication, like that was a form of waste. So by having me translate that, it eliminated the waste of like thousands of emails.
True. It's the same here in Pakistan, and we have this divide, and especially in quality department. If, I have worked as assistant manager quality. Saad has also worked there as assistant manager quality.
Yes.
And for quality department, it again becomes even more serious, this issue, because we have to collaborate with production, and also we have to collaborate with product development. They have their own targets, and we have to make them understand that, look, if you work,
Not we can say collaborated, but we can fight with the production and all the departments.
Oh, that's a form of collaboration.
because of quality.
So have you guys ever found in your work life that you actually had like competing targets coming against each other? Like one department is trying to reduce something and the other department is trying to increase something else. So like say the purchasing department has to reduce the amount of inventory in the company. So they have a target, but then the sales team has another target where they need to sell way, way, way more stuff. So like they have, because the silo is there, they're like have competing targets against each other.
With this
both have, I think, productivity and quality as well. Both.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah. So that's where, though, I think having that understanding of exactly what the customer wants. So instead of, because sometimes the quality-oriented people, they tend to want to have over quality. Like they want to have it like absolutely no room for error. Whereas you might find that the customer actually doesn't need that. Now, if you're building safety things, if you're building airplanes, that's something different. But for a lot of products, finding out exactly what the customer needs and just delivering that, and then the extra quality comes from the customer service. The quality doesn't need to be, the quality just of the product itself needs to meet the customer expectation. But then the extra thing that makes the customer loyal is like, how fast did they get it? Are they able to get troubleshooting if the thing doesn't work? Are they, all that customer service stuff. So if each department knows, if the whole company understands, it all comes down to like really understanding your customer and what they're looking for. Like when I go on Amazon and buy something for $25 compared to like $200, like I know I'm going to get less quality, but I'm okay with that because I chose to get less quality.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's that silo thing. It's funny. I think
I have lots of experience, as you have.
Oh, you're just cutting out a little bit.
Yes, Andy. Please.
Okay.
Continue.
No, you were just cutting out a little bit there. So.
Yeah, but I think it's stable now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that, yeah. So if I was gonna
now
say,
it's stable. Is
Yes,
it audible?
yes, it's okay. No, it's okay now.
Okay. Yeah. So where do you
Okay.
think the
Please,
biggest
Angela, continue.
where do you think the biggest opportunities are for people that are in lean and stuff right now? Like if we're going out and helping companies, aside from all the normal stuff that we do with quality and productivity, what do you guys think are like the biggest areas for that were needed right now?
In Pakistan, uh, industries need actually target-driven, objective-driven uh, actions, which are
Okay.
actually missing.
Okay.
Consultants got their contract, got their project, but there are no commitments to targets. There is only that we will kind of establish that system, we will produce that system, we will produce SOPs, but no consultant actually commits targets will be achieved. So it's
Mm.
kind of a deceiving point. Yeah. So there is a time like 10 years, 10 years back, people were going to consultants. Every company was going to, industry was going to consultants. But now they have learned it that the consultants only develop the systems, but they don't commit targets, achievement of targets. So this is where it is lacking.
Yeah, and it's like I think that something I've experienced is that working with people that they're not able to set targets yet because they aren't totally clear on what their current state is yet. So like once you get to that point where you get that current state, if you go into a company that doesn't even know really where they are, then maybe they can get to that point. But once you know where you are, that should be the absolute next thing is like in the analysis is like, okay, now we know where we are. The next thing in the analysis phase should be where do we want to go and like let's develop the new map. Let's develop the new map of like what are the actual steps, because it's one thing to set the target, but you've got to show them how to reach that target and then to maintain it, because you can do all sorts of stuff to meet a target, but if you don't have the right system in place, it's just going to keep sliding back to the same problem. So I guess it comes back down to that root cause thing of like eliminating the problem instead of just keep trying to meet a target. Because a lot of people, they collect data, they collect more and more and more data, and they're all about, well, we're meeting this target, we've got to get our profit margin, we want like a certain amount of profit, we're going to reach this target. Like you said, maybe the higher level, they're very focused on this target, but I think what they need us for is to like show the map and help them develop the map of like what can realistically be accomplished, and how, using the resources they already have, how do we like make that actionable in like little tiny steps. So like this happens and then this is going to happen, and you have to get rid of that original problem or it's just going to keep you're going to keep struggling to reach that target over and over again.
Yes, but in Pakistan is also like industries are improving day by day, related to they're making the graphs and all that. After this pandemic, a lot of people are thinking about this, like you can say this current situation and back situation, post pandemic situation. Then how we will improve, how we will go for the cost saving factor, and all that. And Boxbrain is also working for this, like you can say in Pakistan, for continual improvement activities, that after this point, pandemic, how we will improve the industrial sector and all that, how we will give you the value stream. You can say you said it about the map. We can say value stream mapping, how we can add the value in the system and all that.
Yeah, so knowing that every step in your system is providing some kind of value, whereas maybe before we kind of know, yeah, we should save money, but it wasn't as critical, because if there's lots and lots of business, you can just throw money at a problem, right? But now people maybe can't afford to just throw money at a problem. Yeah. Oh, I think, oh, there's Stefan. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. True. With after this pandemic, the resources that they were, I think, putting on developing their teams may be cut down because, as you have said, so. But actually, the need is even more bigger now that we should develop our teams because as I have worked in a retail industry, and we have to trust our vendors because we cannot go there, we cannot go to their factories. It's like
Yeah.
restricted now, so we have to trust them. So
Yeah.
if we have not developed them to this point, uh, it would be they would make mistakes, and also ethical development would not be there, so the quality will be compromised and safety will be
Yeah.
compromised.
Yeah.
But
I totally agree. And safety too. Yeah. Safety is when sometimes when people are strapped and they are under a lot of stress to produce and they have all these constraints in place, safety is the first thing to go. Because especially I find in Nova Scotia, we actually could do a lot better for safety because we have this, especially with like young men, I find have this attitude. I don't know about guys in Pakistan, but this attitude of just like, I don't need to wear a harness. I don't need the safety stuff. I'm good. And I would like to see that as more like in all the list of things that have to do, a company has to do. I really, I annoy people actually with my safety lecturing. But
You are well versed about the safety things and all that. We are very experienced person about the safety things and all that.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, I love it. So it's, and you can't just have an SOP for safety either. It has
exactly.
to be real
Exactly.
stuff.
So if you can take my question is that people perceive safety as something which is not valuable, which is not adding value to the product. So how will you say, like comment on this uh, argument that safety does not? Even some people say that quality department does not add value.
Oh
It's
wow.
yeah.
To me it's obvious, but to me it is like, okay, what happens if you have someone on lost time, if they get injured and have to leave?
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a insurance? Do companies have to pay insurance for their workers?
Yes.
So yeah, so that right there, you're going to lose money. Plus you're going to waste time because you might have to replace them and train somebody new. That costs a lot of money to train somebody. You're losing a lot of knowledge. Plus your reputation. If you have safety issues and someone gets injured and the public finds out about it, that is your reputation. That's business. Plus, with quality, it's the same thing. Your quality and the product or service that you're giving to your customers, especially now that we live online, like everything's online, you have a
Yes.
quality issue or safety issue, it is going to be out in the public so fast.
True.
And we've seen it with some of the car companies. We've seen it. And so to me, it's like it's value added. It's like a preventative maintenance. Safety and quality are preventative forms of preventative maintenance so that you don't have to waste. So to me, it's just a part of, it's like a control. It's risk management. So it's like when you are going to start a new business and you have to have a business plan, you can't go to the bank to get a loan without knowing what your risks are and actually doing a real business plan and working on all those risks. That's normal business. So it's the same with safety and quality. You need to be able to predict and say within a certain margin of error, we can pretty much say we're good.
Okay. What you can say about our young industrial engineer?
Oh, what can I say to them? Well, I think I've mentioned it earlier, but don't get caught up. Don't be shy and stay in your office. Don't just stay on the computer. Don't just text people and email people. Go talk to people. Go see, get people used to seeing your face all the time. Like you are part of the team and don't alienate yourself. Make yourself as accessible as possible so that people know that you are there to make their work better, so that their work can have a greater impact in the company. So if you have information if you are in a position of influence because you're an engineer, then that's a privilege to have that influence and use it to help people have safer, better work environment. So that's what I would say is don't be shy. Yeah.
True. What I got from your discussion, from your informative discussion, that you mainly focus on people's management, on people. Out of the 4 P's, you mainly focus on people and their behaviors and their needs more than the system and the other things. They are also important, but the people development and relationship with people are very much important.
Well, I think for me, the people are the vehicle to be able to really understand the system and improve it. So creating to really, I love analyzing the systems and the processes, but it's like, how do you make those processes so that they serve the people that use them? So to me, they're kind of like inseparable. And I love building relationships, and I think so. There's so much trust that goes with if you just get caught up in the engineering and in the theory of what might work. People have to use those systems, right? So yeah, I guess it's both for me. I love both. I love problem solving, but you can't problem solve without people.
True.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So just your experience with artists, as you have mentioned on your profile. Can you just brief us?
This is the main point. This is the main point we have to discuss.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I used to be, when I was younger, I told you I was a chef, and then I've always been an artist, but I think it's not just about art, it's about building things and creating things all the time. So like I used to build furniture, and I work with steel, and I do jewelry, and I do textiles. And I have this need to create stuff. And so I had a business doing that when my children were smaller. I had a business as an artist, and then I decided that I wanted to have a job that was a more professional level, where I could have more influence and be more of a leader in a business. And so I went back to school later to study this industrial engineer technology. So it was a 2-year program, but it was very, very intensive Lean Six Sigma project management and operations management. And we had like 3 internships during it. So it was very practical thing. And I just loved it right away, because the way they advertised it was basically like, become a professional problem solver. And I was like, that's what I love. And that's why I love art. So now with my business now, the way I get to be creative is I make, like my content, Saad's seen my content on LinkedIn. Like I like to do very graphic and fun posts and things like that. So
Yeah. I just saw your previous presentation. It's very creative, and I just and also saw your video on Facebook about you're talking about the like improvement in the printing things. Printer, I think.
Oh, yeah, no. And yeah, so I think it's as an entrepreneur, you have a chance to be creative. And the thing that I see a lot with Lean Six Sigma people is that they're very serious. Like it's all very formal language, and that's okay. There's room for that. There is room, but there's also room to make it fun and accessible. And I want to make it as simple. I believe in that simple. So a friend of mine says that when you go into an environment and you use language and stuff that people don't understand, that's actually a form of waste, because you're wasting your time. The sooner you can meet with the people and get them to really understand what you're trying to do, that is more efficient. So you can use creativity and imagery. Yeah.
True. True.
Yeah. So no, I think it's I'm glad that I took my career the direction I did, but I'll always be like an artist in here. Like yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
Afan.
that's great, and it's a very big change, I have to say, from
Oh,
artistic
it is.
industry.
It is. But when I look back at my artwork was always about production and stuff. So I would make like things in series and then be continuously improving each one. So I'd make one and then I'd make a jig for it. So like, how can I make 10 of these? So I'd build a jig. And then I would measure my process to see, well, I can make this in 20 minutes. Now let's see if I can make it in 10 minutes. And so when I look back, I always think I had that continuous improvement mindset. So when I discovered lean, it just linked with my brain right away. I was like, this is
Wow.
what I love. Yeah.
So you took data-driven approach even in artists,
I
being
think,
artists. Being
yeah,
art,
I love systems.
Yeah.
I love process. I love making jigs. When you can make a jig for anything, that's the
Yeah.
best.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. What's up next?
Okay, we have around 1 hour to talking. So we thank you so much for Miss Angelina about it's time for our session.
Yeah.
So yes,
This was
Afan.
really fun. And it was such a surprise when you reached out to me. And I told my friend, I was like, I'm going to be on a podcast in Pakistan. Like that is because of LinkedIn. Like that is so cool. So I really appreciate you guys. You made this very easy for me.
Because a lot of junior engineers and young professional in Pakistan is watching you and watching our discussion about the improvement and all that things.
That's great. I hope that they can have a lot of success and go out there and make businesses better.
Okay,
Sure.
Afan. Okay, Afan. So should we close?
Yeah. If we don't have any questions, so just let's close it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Angela. Your comments about Boxbrain or this session are very much we are delighted with it. And
Yeah.
we want to continue this collaboration as much as we can. If
Yes,
we
keep
need
in
you
touch.
in the future, we will contact you.
And hopefully I can post a recording of this if it's recorded. Hopefully we can
Yeah.
I can post this to my contacts and let them know all about Boxbrain.
Sure.
Sure.
So,
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Afan, please.
Thank you,
Afan.
Angela.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Should I
Afan,
leave the
please.
studio?
Afan, please close the stream.
Yes, I have closed it.